Hi, welcome to our first installment of our idea book. This is something that Rhonda without an H and I are doing in our Facebook group, Stitching, Fabric, Papers, and More. I get tongue-tied on that all the time. What we're doing is we're asking you to play along and come up with a book. This is what I have found. I got it while I was on vacation. I paid $2.50 for it, and it has all kinds of pages in it. I've already pulled some out, and they all open. So if I wanted to do my sample small, I can, or I can do it big. This is what I plan on working in. You can work in whatever it is that you would like. It doesn't matter. You can do them all loose leaf and put them in a folder. You can do them in an encyclopedia. There will be some techniques where we will be sewing, and so using them in a book probably won't be easy, but there's no reason that says you can't sew it on paper and then put it in your book. So some of the pages that I've pulled out, and I'm sorry for the interruption. This is my second take. I didn't know that when the phone rang, it turns off the video. So I did the entire video once already. So now we're on it again. So some things are already started, and we'll just have to deal with it. So I have gessoed some of these papers. I took a little sanding block, just kind of roughed them up because they were slickery. I just put gesso on them, and then I just scraped some paint on it. Nothing fancy. But now they're ready for whatever technique I want. And maybe I won't want to do that, but I have, 2-3 inches worth of papers to work with, so I'm not too worried about it. So what our project for today is collage, my way. And I say my way because I have been inspired by several people. Tisha Moore is one of those. And, I've taken tips and techniques and styles, and then I do my thing. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. I want to show you how I do it. We all do collage. We all do different kinds of collage. I know there's different kinds of collage. This is just my peaceful, easy feeling. I just am very happy when I do this. So I just got home from vacation a week ago. We're fighting plumbing problems now, so it's just one thing after another. But this was a magazine. It was something my sister gave me, and she thought I'd want the pictures. So she was a little disappointed when I sat and glued all the pages together and made me a new book. But then she's seen the work in it, and she was like, oh, wow, that's cool. So I have a couple of books here so that I can show you my steps when I'm working on it. So I have this book, and if you can see, there's stuff glued hit and miss on several pages. I like to just pick up my pile of stuff, which I have right here, and I will just pull out something, and if I need it fussy cut, I will fussy cut it. And I don't usually tear anything because I do outline everything, so straight lines just help. So I have this, and it doesn't really go with anything yet. Not too bad, so I kind of keep that in mind. Nope. No. So I really liked it here. So I'm going to take my glue stick, and this is my favorite glue. It's Scholastic, and it's purple, and I'm very generous. A lot of people shy away from glue sticks. This is my favorite. This is the only one I use. I'm going to put this right there, and then I burnish it. This is my favorite tool for that. If the piece is big enough. If it's little, sometimes it'll slide around. I always burnish, and that to me is what keeps it good. I have this piece right here. This has been made for 3 or 4 years. It's a wooden block, and it's got collage material on it, and I used a glue stick. and nothing's come loose. There's no finish over it. I may have sprayed it with a matte sealer, but there's no matte medium or Mod Podge, anything like that on it, and it has held up. And it usually sits in the window, so that kind of tells you it really holds up pretty well. So that's kind of what I do, is I will take, this is when I'm working in a journal, which this whole thing will be collaged. And when I do that, I just pick out things and put them in as I go. You know, I may pick up an image and think, wow, I really like this bumpy part here. And so I can cut that out and put it wherever it fits, which it really goes pretty good there. And then I can put this part somewhere else. So it's just, you know, placing it. And I like to work in a whole book that way. I think sometimes I'm going to sit down and do a page, and it never happens because I'll pick up something I like, but it doesn't go there. So then I still want to use it, so I'll put it somewhere else. So that's kind of where I get that. What I do is I tend to just cut out pieces. This is just, actually, this whole thing was one image, and I cut parts of it out and put it in there. And you know, I think my favorite part of it is how you take something that's like this. It looks like some kindergartner picked out pieces and cut them out and glued them on. And when you're done, you've got something like this. It's like, as many of these as I've made, it still fascinates me how I can go from magazine cutouts to this. And I have had my art in shows, and I have won prizes. And I have listened to the critique of different judges, because sometimes I think, well, I just cut up magazines and glue them down and color on them, you know, and somebody else will spend hours upon hours painting a portrait. And, you know, they explain that to me and why, but sometimes it still feels like, well, I just put it together and I, you know, not a lot of work. But that's just me. That's my thought process. So what we're going to do for our first page is a collage. And I've showed you kind of how I just, you know, pick up papers and start gluing them in. Now, if you're working just on one collage, that's what you'll do. You will just pick up your papers and glue them in. And I have already did this because, like I said, this is my second time. And I'm going to go through here and show you some of the things that I've done to change it. You know, if there's lines, I outline them, change the colors, add lines to make it finished, you know, more lines to make it a whole new texture. I take parts of images that are there and extend them out, or fake it and make new images that extend out. Add colors. Lots of it is just outlining things that were there. Maybe it's just the way the paint flows in the art, like maybe I would want to outline that little piece of green, different things like that. I've colored in extra things, and like this was flowers, but they weren't, the leaves weren't quite right, so several of these leaves are redrawn in. I always add, I love faces. So I always redo the eyes. I love long eyelashes. And, you know, sometimes it's just add something. I tend to do this a lot with the dots. There's dots everywhere. There's always going to be dots on my art. And there's always going to be lines. So that's just kind of what I do and how I go about it. I love to do little bumpy outs, extra large dots along an edge. Gives it a whole different texture, extra lines. So your doodles don't have to be super fancy. Dots and lines, that's mostly what I use. I do love the swirls, and I like to get weird with them and put pokies on them. And this was just different colors. I kind of did a plaid. There will always be black and white in my books, on my pages, somewhere. I like that. I think it just makes everything pop. So after you have put some images down, which I have already done here, I outline everything. Everything. And this is my favorite marker, the Uno or Uno Posco pins. I use the fine points. I love them. I have used them for years. I do have the mediums, but they're probably all dried out because I always go to these. So I just picked out some images and then I outline them. And when you're outlining them, if you can see right there, I hope that I didn't get my outline quite right there. So I'm going to go back and fix it and make this little black bump. And because I've got these two here, I think I'll put one here and one here. So now I have bumps on purpose, but it looks like it was meant to be that way. So after I outlined, then I also, something I did here is this was a pink block and this was a half a pink block. And I brought that block out and then I added two and then added some dots, trace around different lines, added my little spaceman feature things there. And then here I was going to, instead of outlining it completely, I just did this. I will color this in. And I could grab a wider tip for that, and I usually do. And then I'll make my swirls, because I want swirls hanging down. And I will make some that have little extra swirls on them. And I just do that. One thing I like to do when I've done these, after I've got them all done, I'll go back over it and make sure my lines don't quite touch. And then I can come back and fill this in. So I got another spot to put white dots. Or I could fill it in with a color, whichever works good for you. When I am doing edges, like I've done here, I tend to get the heavier marker out so that I don't ruin my tip. Because the painted papers are hard on the tips, but I usually, the pen comes dry before I ruin the tip, most of the time. Occasionally I have ruined a tip, or my grandson's ruined a tip or two. And so I like to do the extra outlines with the heavier pen so I don't, you know, there's no reason to waste the tip on an outline like that. So this is basically paint, cut out, glue, outline, and then doodle, doodle, doodle. After you have doodled and you're happy with everything, okay, this one is outlined. It is not completely doodled. Some of the things that I would do on this one is I would take this circle on out and this circle on out, so that gives it a different texture on the edge. I would outline these and maybe, well, let me just do this real quick. I'm going to outline this, and I'm not worried about whether it's perfect or not, because I think that's what makes it cool. And I would add this. So that's something. And you don't have to go all the way around, just do a few. This one I would outline, and maybe this one I just want to do a few lines. And I work around whatever images are there, whatever I want to do. This one, I did take those pink dots out. I'll go ahead and mark this like this because that's where that one's going to go, and this one's going to go here. So I'll just kind of redo the outline so that they all match. And then I can take, say, the white pen, because this is already white, and colored in. And I didn't prime my pen. And I'm probably close to the end of this one anyway. I do go through the black and the white. In fact, I order mine on Amazon, and I order a package of blacks and a package of whites 2 times to the package of colors. So say another thing, this has kind of got this pretty starburst through it. I don't know if you can really see that, but say I don't want that color, I will pull up my watercolor brush pens, the colorets, and I will add color, and then I blend it with my finger. Gotta be a little bit faster because it does dry. And I can completely change that color. Now I don't have to blend it with my finger, because you know, maybe I want it all solid. And of course, you know, I'm taking pink onto the green, so I've got a different color. But you can keep going until you get it all one color or have the two-tone. I mean, it's just, it's yours. You can do what you want. But these markers are really fun because you can take something that's a light color and turn it another color, kind of real sloppily, but it looks like it's supposed to be. It's got that watercolor look. And you can kind of blot it to get it more watercolor look. So that's a really nice pen. So we're going to pretend it's all doodled. And as you can see, I love my black lines to put polka dots on. Now, if my black line happens to be really thick, this one's pretty thick. It's not as thick as I would say, but I will make it stripe it. And I even make it checkered sometimes, because to me the black and white is what puts it all together and ties it in. So now we're going to do the shading. Several different things you can use to shade. You can use just a regular pencil, and you can just draw on something and then blend it out, or there it is, dirty little thing. Use your blending stump, and you can get that, and it gives you the shadow shading look. You can take the graphite pencil, and a lot of times I just draw right over the black line that I outlined with, because I want to spread it out anyway. And the graphite pencil really goes. In fact, you get about halfway done, and there's enough on your blending stump to do some more parts without even drawing it. If you happen to get out there and it's too far out there and you don't like that, then you can pick up your eraser. There it is. And just erase enough to where it's what you want. Another one is a pastel pencil or a charcoal pencil. This one I tend to put down pretty heavy. I don't know why. It just goes on heavy, and it extends itself. I only drew right here and here, but I've actually added it, gotten it to spread out clear over to here, and still have my shadow. Just a little bit of work, that's all there is. I don't have a paintbrush handy in water, but this is a scribe ball. I get it at Hobby Lobby, Stilibo or something like that. I may be mispronouncing it. And it's kind of a watercolor pencil. So you can actually outline this. Oh wait, I have water in my drink, so I will make me a little puddle of water there. And there's got to be a paintbrush close. There's got to be a paintbrush close. Normally there's a paintbrush close. So we will fake it. There's this one, but it's not got any water in it. So I'm going to get some water and go over this. And it gives you a light shading. I'm going to add a little bit more because my pencil's really sharp. And so it didn't lay much down. And you can do that. And that's a really cool shading. So, you know, it's totally whatever. Another really fun one is the charcoal pencils. It's really soft. You don't need much. Put a little bit down and then blend. And it's one you don't want to get too far out with, because you can spread it quite a ways. So once you've got it where you want, then spread it out a little more and do the eraser trick. And I only lightly erase, so I still get that gradient color. Because I don't want it all gone, but I want it to still look shadowed, shaded, because that's what makes it pop. And here is, like this one has been shaded, and this one's been shaded, but this one has not. Shading is usually the last thing I do. And this is something, when you have cut something out, I do love fussy cutting. I know a lot of people will just cut around an image and that's good, but I do like to fussy cut. But when you get something like this and you've got these little openings like right there and in between the stems, go ahead and leave them, because when you glue them down, you can take a pen or a marker that's similar in color to your background and color them in, and they look like you cut them out. So that's another quick little tip. But I love how you just throw stuff together and you can still get that kindergarten look and put it together in a finished piece with doodles and a little shading and maybe some words. And like I said, I do try to cover most of the image. I use it for a shape, I use it for a color, and I use it for a texture. So that is how I do my collage. I hope I've covered everything, because the way my video went, I feel like I've said everything twice. So basically, you take images that you have a huge pile of. I tend to save full sheets out of magazines. I'll go through them and I'll pull out. The ones that I don't use, I use later as surfaces to glue on, because there's no sense in wasting them. And so I take my images and I just cut out chunks of it. Sometimes I will cut out exactly what it is I want. Like maybe I want this whole thing. And so I would cut around what I wanted. But for the most part, I just cut chunks out of things and then add to them when I put them in. So after you've found images, you glue them on. Like I said, I just use the glue stick, and you burnish it, and then you outline it, then you doodle it, then you shade it. And if you want to put a quote on it or put a center focal, you can do that. I don't have one handy. I do think that this one might go in there because I like this little snake charmer. But you don't want to sit and watch me fussy cut that and then glue it out. And then when I am done and I am looking for a quote, I look at the image and I try to see what look at it, what I see. Like I have this, I don't know what this is, but it was cute, playing a guitar, and this guy looks like he's dancing. So I might look for something, quotes with dancing in a guitar, and see what comes up. Or this one, you know, school teacher, something like that. Whatever I see in them. And like this one, I probably looked up birds or fly. And what I chose is whatever. I can fly. I choose not to. So, and this one was just designed so, you know, sometimes it's just a quote I like. But I Google it, and whatever I find that it works. It jumps out at me most of the time. And sometimes I don't leave a lot of room. And I just looked at this, and all I could think of was beauty school dropout, because she's got funky hair. Sometimes I don't know where the words come from or where the images come from in my mind. But this one was, the three ladies was one image. and I cut this fish and didn't want to lose him, so I thought, well, it looks really good there, and the winner is, and she won a fish. So there's nothing important to this, but it makes me very happy to work on it, and I love it, and I can just sit and look at them. I actually have 4 complete journals done, and several started, but this is the project for today. So once you get to playing with it, if you post a picture of your collage in our album for the Big Idea book, then we are giving out prizes once a month. We will have several different techniques, and you can put one image for each one in there, and that's 1 vote. Or not 1 vote, that's your name in the drawing one time. We don't know who's sending what, or when it's going to be sent, or what it is, but you will win a cool little prize. So, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave it below. I'll leave the link for our Facebook group that we're doing this through, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.